Schaub to Finn. How about that? We get to see it once again, this time in studio.
I don't want to take full credit for Schaub getting picked up in Houston and making $1 gazillion. But I had played a little bit of a role there, not going to lie to you. We had a couple of nice connections, dude. He filled in for Vic and started a few games for us, and it was he was one of those guys fun to play for because Schaub had the touch. He has these giant hands. He's 6'6" guy you like to see in the pocket. You look back,
very beautiful feet.
Your kind of quarterback.
That's exactly right.
The way
and
you like him.
And he also had the power where you can zip it in there over the middle too. That's why he went on to be.
Unlike Kirk Cousins down the stretch.
How many years did you get in, Schaub?
17.
17.
I thought you were with the Falcons.
No.
8 with the Falcons.
Yeah, 8 with the Falcons. 17 overall.
There you go.
MVP of the Pro Bowl game, which was fun for me to kind of sit back and watch, and I'm sure it was fun for you as well. So unbelievable
Back when they actually
career,
played
man.
football in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah. There was actually a game involved in, like, there was some contact.
Yeah.
Right? It was in two-hand touch.
It's the Locker Room on the Fan, 680 93.7 FM. We have Super Bowl 59 coming up on Sunday. Brian Finneran will be in New Orleans for some of the festivities. Will he get on a yacht? We'll get to that. But right now, we have a man who spent 8 years with the Atlanta Falcons. He spent more than 15 years, 17 years in the NFL. And when he was a member of the Falcons, he did everything the organization asked him. He did everything he could for his teammates and everything he could for Falcons Nation, the fans, like a man is supposed to. He is Matt Schaub joining us here in the Locker Room on the Fan, 680 93.7 FM. Good to see you, Schaub. Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year. Good to see you guys. Thanks for having me in.
I wonder what we'll talk about with you today. I'm sure you thought it was going to be an easy layup of just Super Bowl talk.
I thought this was going to be a piece of cake. Talk Kansas City, Philly, a little Falcon talk, and then boom, this. I mean,
we'll get to that. But
Thanks.
you're actually the perfect guy to talk to because you have been in the building when Mike Smith was in the building. You've been in the building when Dan Quinn was in the building. You've been in the building when Raheem Morris was in the building. You've been in the building when Arthur Smith was in the building. You are a Falcon through and through throughout the generation. So this is a perfect day to have you in studio. What do you think about what you have heard and saw from Kirk Daniel Cousins yesterday, who reveals to the world that he was injured in the New Orleans game? And we've talked to several people there. Now that we're going to be in a situation because the people we've talked to have said he did not be as forthright with the severity of his injury as he was in front of the world.
Right. And, there's different ways to look at this. Obviously, it's not a good situation. It's a terrible look. I don't know how the building runs right now.
Right.
I have not been a part of the new regime, Raheem Morris. I know him. He was an assistant coach during my 5 years here at the end of my career with the Falcons. But knowing Kirk, when I think about this, I can understand him not wanting to fully disclose things because he's worried about his job, obviously, with the team and Michael Penix Jr. But I know Kirk, he's an ultimate pro. He's a pro's pro, and he takes care of himself, always has. It's been a big priority of his. I can't see him sustaining something like that and being affected and not talking about with the trainers or not going in and get treatment. If he didn't, this is very bad look. Mm-hmm. This is bad for the locker room. This is bad for teammates. I can't see how you can walk in April or May to workouts with your teammates.
Oh, no, that's not happening.
And like nothing happened.
Right. Hey, guys, I'm here. I'm good.
You're affecting a lot of people and a lot of people's livelihoods when you play this position and you don't handle your business. The other side of it, if you did say something and you are getting continuous treatment, which I have to believe that he did, it's your throwing arm, it's your livelihood. Then you look at the team, and why isn't he on the injury report for more than one day? Why aren't we talking more about it? Did you see it during practice? Because if, like we all saw during the games, some of the throws weren't able to be made. There wasn't as much zip. There wasn't as much
100%
oomph in his delivery. Then you're seeing it in practice. And are we not talking to each other and saying, hey, are you feeling all right? Like, are you getting treatment? Like, what's going on? And trying to get ahead of it before the last 2 weeks
start coming out that Michael Penix looks better in practice, the zip on the ball and everything else. And with him being banged up like he was in Kirk Cousins, to your point, somebody in that side of that building had to see something. Right. And they just let it kind of keep lingering and lingering and lingering. So I don't know. It's just the whole thing's blowing my mind.
It bothers me because it's a bad look that you're on national TV talking about it after the season.
Yes.
After you've been benched, after you stood on the sideline with your helmet on looking like a crazy person when you knew you weren't getting in the game.
He's still a Falcon. He's still a Falcon
right now.
For like 26 more days, maybe.
Is it March 17th, maybe?
For like $60 million more.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there any recourse with that? Like, if it comes out that he was hiding this from the team, does
I think
the
you
league
can
have
void
any
a contract if something like that happens.
I'm sure there's some language in there that the team isn't liable for his proration of his signing bonus or a portion of his salary that's guaranteed next year. I think he has a signing bonus that's $10 million or something next offseason. But there's going to be some interesting things, and I do not like the look of it.
Right.
But putting myself in his shoes and being a current player, I can see what he's doing, that it's like I can see myself most likely not on this team. Let me put it out there to other teams that I had this going on. I'm getting it right. I'm getting healthy. So whether it's a trade partner or he does get released, teams are going to want his services.
So everybody wants to be a tough guy and play through injuries. We've all done it. You had a Liz Frank injury in 2011 where you hurt. Did you miss the rest of the season after they found that thing?
Well,
what happened with you? And what point of the season was that?
We were in Tampa Bay, and it was week.
And you're playing for the Texans?
It was with the Texans. We were 7-3 or 8-3 at the time, something like that. And we were just hitting our stride as a team. This was going to be the first year we win the division playoffs. Right before the end of the half, I had a quarterback sneak coming off the goal line to just get us away from the goal line and end the half. And sure enough, my foot explodes.
Ouch.
Go in. I did finish the game, got taped up and everything, barely could move. And we were in control of the game. I didn't have to throw up but maybe 4 or 5 times the second half. But it hurt like you know what. But that was it. After that, I mean, it blew up so much that surgery was necessary.
Okay.
There was no way to play through it. I tried everything you could possibly try, and there was no way.
It's hard as a competitor to just shut it down for a couple weeks because you got to. Plus, you had the quarterback position.
Yeah.
But if it's an elbow and shoulder on your throwing arm, and it's diminished that much, at what point do you tell yourself, I got to just, maybe if I take a week or two off to get done and get this thing right? And then again, you got the 8th overall pick sitting behind you.
It's a tough situation because the day it happened, like you want to try to play through it. You want to fight through it. You want to that next week, let me get as much treatment as I can, see how far I can take this thing. But at the same time, then you go out and lay an egg. What does it look like if you say, you know what, 2 weeks ago I did this, let me take a couple weeks off. I mean, then it turns into, imagine what you guys would be saying in here every day after that. It's easy right now to say, why didn't you do that? We could have salvaged 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
You come back in healthy.
Right.
And lead them into the playoffs and like whatever we can talk about and hypothetically say what could have happened. But it's tough. But to your point, John, to sit here in beginning of February, Super Bowl week, and talk about it, it's strictly for those teams out there that are like, I wonder what's going to go on with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, and his worst nightmare was revealed. He was fearful, from what we're understanding, that he would lose his job, and he ended up losing his job. Matt Schaub here in studio with us on the Fan 680 93.7 FM, Super Bowl 59. Coming up, if you had the opportunity, who would you rather be an offensive coordinator for? The Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes or the Eagles with Jalen or with Jalen Hurts, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, and A.J. Brown?
Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, okay.
Philadelphia Eagles. The things you can do just from a schematic standpoint that you can put on paper and you can go out and execute and say to defense, pick your poison. Are you going to load the box for Saquon and our awesome offensive line that's probably top 3 in the league? Or are you going to play coverage and try to defend A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert and try to cover them and then deal with Saquon with your front 7? I mean, that's a nightmare for a coordinator. The thing about Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, so much of it's off schedule.
Right.
And it's just, you do put a lot on paper, and they execute it to a T, whether it's man or zone. They have all these checks based on what you're doing to have an advantageous play. But at the end of the day, when it gets to 2-3 seconds on the into the play, Patrick's going to go and ad lib, and great things happen, but there's still that level of unknown. And the fact that you have so many stars on the Eagles offense, I'd go with them.
How does a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes decipher, tell the listener, like whether it's zone or man, and how soon in the play clock does that need to happen for them to be effective?
Well, they break the huddle pretty quick.
Okay.
I know Andy Reid and his play calls, that system can be kind of wordy and long, but they're such a well-oiled machine at this point that they know what they're doing. But they'll put a running back outside of a receiver or a tight end outside of a receiver, or put two receivers on the same side as slot. And if your corner runs over, or if a linebacker or safety goes out on a tight end or a running back, boom, it's man-to-man. We can go to our man beater. Or if you started with your man play, leave it on. That gives you, that undresses the defense so that you know what coverage they're in.
Yeah, we think about the last play that they run against Buffalo. Finn's talked about it, but the way that you throw to probably the least likely guy on the whole roster in Samaje Perine, but the play was set up beautifully. You have him offset right, all your receivers to the left. They kind of wash everybody away. He leaks out of the backfield. Andy Reid's such an unbelievable play caller, and that's why I can't bet against him. Like Philly, you're spot on. I think man for man is a more talented football team. But because of the guy playing quarterback and the guy that's on the sideline, I don't know how you bet against Kansas City.
It is. It's always tough to bet against them the last 4 or 5 years. But there's been enough holes punched in their team. Yes, they've won a lot of games on the last drive in the fourth quarter, one-score games. How long can they sustain that? It's been up till now. They've won more. I just
20 weeks they can do it.
19 so far. I don't know if they can do it against Philly and their defense. I think that they just have so much talent on that side of football. And their offense, when Saquon gets rolling, and then you can throw in the RPOs and some of the play action passes, their offense is tough to stop.
Is it overblown, Jalen Hurts, what he hasn't done over the last, 8-9 weeks? Throwing for 130 yards, 140 yards. I know he had 2 and change in the NFC title game. Or is that just a product of the system, what they play in, and that's all he needs to do?
I think it's just the way the game's unfolded. You never know going in. You have an idea of how you want to play. And it just has happened that they've been able to run the football every game and control the clock and get a lead, and then they just slow the game down where he's not asked to do a ton. But he's been efficient. His completion percentage has been good. He hasn't turned the football over as much. So he hasn't been asked to do that much, and he didn't need to. But he's played efficiently. And so I really like where he's gotten to mentally with a lot of the talk and the struggles from last year and the offseason and the early in the year. But, he seemed to really play through that, and the offense seems to really have come together and gel well.
Matt Schaub joining us here in studio on the Fan 680 93.7 FM. Chiefs almost didn't make it, but almost didn't count against them. Buffalo Bills were right there. Everybody's talking about the 4th and inches play that was not held up or called the right way. But the blitz that Spagnuolo called, is that something that Josh Allen should have been aware of or prepared for on that last play where they had a chance to move the chains?
He knew. That's why as soon as he got the snap, he retreated. The thing about Steve Spagnuolo, and this is going to be something that I know the Eagles the last week and a half have been looking at and have a plan for, but he is a wild card. He's going to be the X factor in this game for the Chiefs if they win, and he has been over his career as their defensive coordinator, because of his unpredictability. But one thing with him is he's going to bring cover zero blitz. And for all you listeners, that's when you blitz more than the offense can protect, and you play man coverage with no safety deep. So it's literally, you throw a pass and miss a tackle, it's a touchdown. But he'll do it anytime, anywhere on the field. It could be 1st and 10 on your own 30-yard line. It can be 4th and goal on the 5 going in. He'll do it anytime, anywhere, and you have to have a plan for it and know what your check is going to be or have an answer built into the play. And it just so happened that, Josh gave ground and made a good throw. His tight end dropped it, tough catch. But that's something the Eagles are going to be prepared for, and they're going to be ready for zero blitz because he doesn't really disguise it. The safeties try to, but eventually they got to get to their coverages.
You got 10 more minutes?
Yeah.
Let's do something you and Finneran used to do on a regular basis when you guys were a tandem. Let's move the chains when we return here in the locker room on the Fan 680 93.7 FM. 8:20 here on the Fan 680 93.7 FM. Welcome back into the locker room. 8 o'clock hour brought to you by Central Heating and Air, one of the few second-generation locally owned HVAC companies in Atlanta. With Central, you're not just a number, you are a member of the family. We have family in studio. Matt Schaub joining us here as we have Super Bowl 59. Kirk Cousins going on the NFL Network and revealing that he was injured well before a lot of people knew that he was. We're talking about that and talking about where the strategy and where the advantages in the Super Bowl that's coming up on Sunday will be. He's kind enough to stick around. Now, the question is, do we get him for another 10 minutes so we can get him for Would You Rather?
Yeah, I think we've locked that one in. Most of the questions.
You got 10 more, Shabby.
We'll see how this segment goes.
There's two questions that may be a little questionable. But
He's a nice guy. He's a family man. Yeah. He doesn't usually get into shenanigans we get into. And so
you guys are nice guys and family man.
Yeah, but
I set you up for failure.
We know what's coming. He doesn't know what's awaiting if he sticks around for Would You Rather. So
he's got to stick around. I had his car towed.
Oh, dang it.
Goodness gracious. Well, now he's got to stay.
Yeah.
Now he's got to do it. He also has to do this. We have Movin the Chains, and there is something about the Kansas City Chiefs that will not change, and they're going to be good, and it'll be sticking around for one more year.
There's no one more reliable in a big game situation.
Oh, my knee, my calf, my foot, my brain.
Brian Finneran is moving the chains.
My segment. All right, now it's just yesterday, I believe, that Andy Reid will be sticking around and back for another season for the Chiefs, which is good for them and for you. I think it's good for football. Here he is, Andy Reid, making that announcement.
I enjoy teaching, so I don't get caught up too much on all the stats and all the records and all that stuff. But I enjoy being around the guys. I enjoy football, the game. You can't put in the hours that we do and not enjoy it. I really love the game. Yes, I'll be back. I'm glad he's going to have me back. I mean,
we talked about Luka and LeBron. I hate to bring NBA into the NFL segment, but what that does for LeBron James, will he stick around a year or two? What has Patrick Mahomes done for Andy Reid? And how much longer he is going to be coaching in the NFL?
He is 56 wins short of the all-time record held by Don Shula. I don't know that he wants to stick around 5 more years, 6 more years.
I don't think so.
But
he might explode by then.
What if he gets
cheeseburgers?
Oh goodness! What if he gets
nuggies?
What if he gets close to Belichick? Say they win this one. Now he's 4 in with the Chiefs.
He just told you he's not worried about stats and stuff. He loves teaching and coaching. I wish he would have taught me a little more when I was up there with him in 1999. I didn't drop that stupid ball. It's unbelievable.
Jeez, let it go.
He did teach
point,
coach.
I'm telling
you.
He
did teach you. Don't drop the ball.
Yeah.
He did. I did learn
and
that.
And it worked for 12 years.
He's going to let that go.
I can't do it. So Andy Reid will be back for the Chiefs for another season. Unbelievable run they're on. His tenure, his coaching in the NFL is, he kind of ran the same system in Houston, right? Offensively?
We did. And the one thing I would say about Andy Reid, I think is remarkable, is how his longevity in the game, but how the game's evolved, and he's evolved with it. A lot of coaches stick to what they know and their plan, and the old adage, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but Andy has evolved with the game. And, having Patrick Mahomes obviously really helps. But he had success with Alex Smith when he first got to Kansas City and in his run in Philly. So he's able to adapt to the players that he has and get the most out of them.
No doubt about it. Myles Garrett has gotten the most out of his abilities up in Cleveland, and he wants out. Here's Dan Graziano talking about what it would take to get a guy like that back on your roster?
You'd have to start with at least a first-round pick and maybe like a young player on a rookie deal, right? Like, think about, and this is total spitballing, right? Let's say the Detroit Lions got into it. If you're the Browns, you're probably asking for their one and for, like, Brian Branch, right? A young defensive player is still a couple, right? So that's what I'm talking about. But it's Myles Garrett, 29. Yeah. Maybe a top 5 or 10 player in the entire league. Like these guys do not become available. I don't think there's any such thing as, like, overpaying for a player like this. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, you do wonder if they get sort of the old offer they can't refuse, right? And they have to think about it. But I think if they're going to do it anytime soon, it would have to be pretty massive.
People talk about 2 first-rounders to get Myles Garrett to come to your team.
Yeah, done. Defensive player of the year.
You got to rush the passer. You want to win games and close them out. You got to have that
You're
edge.
The Falcons, guy. And you give
absolutely.
Oh.
Thank you.
Look at this.
Well, I like that. Assertive.
What's been the Achilles heel for the Falcons the last 10 years?
No pass rush.
Since 1966.
Well, okay, 50 years. All right, we'll go back even further.
Feels like it.
All right, Adam Schefter, what the heck is next for my man Aaron and the New York Jets?
I think that Aaron Glenn and Aaron Rodgers have to sit down, and number one, Aaron Rodgers first and foremost has to decide whether or not he wants to play, whether or not he wants to play in New York, whether or not he's committed to going through all this again. And if and when that's the case, then Aaron Glenn's going to have Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji have a decision to make about what they want to do with their franchise. From a talent standpoint, there's probably not a better option out there than Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the guy still has it, and he still can play. The question is, what do they want to do as they're rebuilding their organization?
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, yeah. What would you do if you're Aaron Rodgers and you feel like you could play one more year? You're under contract, right?
That's been the best 2 years of my life.
You sticking it out? You going to try to do this one more time up there?
Yeah, I'm assuming that he wants to play, right? If I'm putting myself in his shoes, I'm playing. I would play for them. I mean, with that defense and the caliber of players that you have around you, and assume if Devontae Adams is going to be there, you got Garrett Wilson, you got Breece Hall. Why not? Yeah. You got Aaron Glenn coming in, one of the hottest defensive coordinators in the game the past couple of years.
Would you, and no idea what Team Sanders wants to do with Shedeur, but the Giants on the board at 3, they probably should take him if they want that mark and he's not going to the Raiders. Would you try to move up if he were available, if you were the Jets, to try to get Shedeur Sanders as your quarterback if you were saying goodbye to Aaron Rodgers?
I think I'd definitely look at that. I definitely would do my due diligence on Shedeur and have all the interviews and workouts, whatever, but I think I would entertain that. It's just a matter of what it would take to jump up and what the Giants would want for that pick.
Can I interest them in Kirk Cousins? Too soon?
Too soon.
Okay.
Let me finish moving the chains, please. A little love. All right, Damien Woody went on the record talking about Jalen Hurts and was trying to compare him to a couple different guys in the league, the stars, Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, these guys, and where he lands. And he may not, as we know, numbers-wise, get up there, but the dude just wins ball games.
I don't think anyone's going to put him in that category, considering how spectacular those guys are. But that's not a slight to Jalen Hurts, because to me, ultimately, when we judge quarterbacks, we judge them win. We judge them in the postseason. We judge them in the moments that matters most. And if Jalen Hurts goes out here and wins the game against the Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs team that's vying for a three-peat, boy, you talk about, a marker for your legacy. I think at the end of the day, I think Jalen Hurts, he doesn't care about that. All he cares about is winning and ultimately winning championships.
He just doesn't spin it. That we look at quarterbacks by yards, touchdowns, fourth quarter throws to wide receivers. He just runs his offense. He scores touchdowns on the ground, and they win games. Double-digit wins at what the Eagles keep putting up.
Yeah, he's totally right. I mean, the ultimate stat for a quarterback is wins and losses. That's what you're judged on, and you're judged on playoff wins and championships. At the end of the day, that is the critical factor. There's so many other stats, all of that, and I recognize it, but Jalen just wins, and there's no asterisk based on who's around you and what players are on your team. You just go out and you execute and you play well.
Couple news and notes. Cooper Kupp is going to be on the trade market, according to his team and what they told him, and according to him. Guys that are in the forefront AFC teams, Chargers, Bills, Steelers, Broncos, top of that list for him to continue his career with those guys.
What about the Chiefs? I don't know what their cap situation is.
Chiefs did not make this list.
They don't need any more help.
Jeez, why are you trying to make them better?
I'm just saying because they're going to try to keep rolling.
Buffalo Bills safety Micah Hyde announced yesterday that he's retiring from playing the NFL. 34-year-old, just finished his 11th season. Really good safety.
Yeah.
Moved around, unfortunate. Didn't get a chance with the Bills to do get to the goal that they had. Second team All-Pro back in 2021 and 2017. He made the Pro Bowl as well. And then one more retirement, Mason Crosby, Packers longtime kicker, 17 years like our boy Schaub. Super Bowl champion, all-time Packers leading scorer, 11th all-time in points in NFL history. So really nice career for Mason Crosby. Moving the Chains.
That is Moving the Chains. We're joined in studio by Matt Schaub, who joins us here in the locker room. Super Bowl 59 coming up in New Orleans Sunday. Also talking about Kirk Cousins and his revelation to the world yesterday on the NFL Network that he had a shoulder and elbow injury. Facing the Saints is when he suffered it, and now the fallout from that. What can you tell us about, you've been here at different incarnations, and you've been around different coaches. Jim Mora, when he was here, Raheem Morris was on the staff. You played for Dan Quinn when you guys go to the Super Bowl. Arthur Smith at the end of your career. What can you tell us about Raheem Morris? The Raheem Morris you don't know him as a head coach.
Receiver coach when you were there, or did he flip-flop?
He moved around. It was wide receiver coach. Assistant head coach was another title to add to the resume, but then he went to the defensive side, and at the end, he was the defensive coordinator and then interim head coach.
A lot of people want him out of here. We saw enough last year, not taking the timeouts against Washington. Now the optics of him looking like he's not doing anything but just listening on the headsets. What can you tell us about the Raheem Morris you know?
Well, and I did experience Raheem for, 6 or 7 weeks when he was the interim head coach at my last season. But he is a player's coach. He's someone that relates well to the locker room. And some people think that's a negative thing. I don't think so. He understands players, and he understands what they're going through, the adversity, the ebbs and flows of a season, the ebbs and flows of a game. What they do on the headset and in game, I don't know. I'm not in their building, so I can't speculate, what decisions or, talk that he has on the headset. I'm sure he was involved in defensive play calling a little bit, had some input anyway. But I enjoyed playing for Raheem, and I think he learned a lot from his experience as a young head coach with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back, 13, 14 years ago. And I've talked to him about that. This is back, when I was still playing and he was an assistant coach. The things that you can learn and take away from that experience to apply to the next time you get an opportunity. And I'm sure he's applying, and I'm sure that things will be right. But fans, rightfully so, when you don't get things done, when there's so much expectation and the talent and the roster's there, and you're thinking we're going to win the division going away, and you get to a certain point in the season and you see it fall apart, naturally fans are going to be saying that. That comes with the territory as the head coach and the quarterback, period.
No doubt.
What does that do, real quick, when you talk about player coach? From a player perspective, what's it better to play for? Is it better to play for a player coach like Raheem Morris, or do you want somebody that's just going to be grinding on you all the time?
You want a little happy medium, and I think the player coach, you'd rather have that as long as they bring with it the realization that there's a time and a place to be that.
Right.
But there's also that time where you got to put your foot down. You got to be a little more demanding. You got to say, hey, we're going to go out and hit. No one wants to hit at week 11 or 12 on a Wednesday practice. Sorry. We're putting the pads on.
Well, they gave him a walkthrough
Wednesday.
They gave him a walkthrough Wednesday in week 11.
And then week 12 and 13.
That's where it started going sideways. Your quarterback got hurt.
Was that the staple, though, going from that point forward? Or
No, they only did it a couple of times. The deal is they went to the bye week. They got beaten up against the Broncos. And then after the beating they took from the Broncos, they had the bye week. So after the bye week, how you feeling, Kirk? What's going on after a week off, Kirk? I'm working through some things. And then he throws the 4 picks and the pick 6 against the Chargers in a game when the defense didn't give up a touchdown.
Yeah, I think you gotta have a pulse of the locker room. You gotta have that. But you also, players are the ultimate BS detectors, right? If you want to sit up there and you're not honest, you're not authentic, and you're not telling them, when you mess up, when you didn't play well, when you play great. But if you're not honest and you're not really willing to point out and be critical, overly critical at times, players are like, man, I really deserve to get a tongue lashing there. And you look around and you start to lose it a little bit. I'm not saying that's what was happening, but that does take place. I've been a part of teams where that happens.
Yeah, I saw it. We saw it live and in person with Jim Moore Jr. His first year there, dude, the discipline was there, sprinting from drill to drill in practice. Our conditioning was our practice, where we sprint from practice, and he held people accountable. We go off into the NFC title game, loosens the reins a little bit the next year, get a good start, finish the season like 8-8. And then it got worse after that.
We were 6-2 at halfway point that second year in 2005, and then we go 2-6, finish 8-8, and we lose we miss out on the playoffs by a game.
Yeah.
I think that last week.
That was just
sounds like this year.
It certainly does.
We've seen that 3 times. Dan Quinn was 6-3 and missed the postseason his first year
and finished 8-8.
So we've seen that before.